Welcome back, grade 10s. Let us unpack our first lesson, which is factors to be considered when choosing a form of ownership. Remember, you cannot just choose a form of ownership. There are factors that you need to consider, and these are the factors. The size and nature of the business, that is the capacity. You need to look at how do you want your business to be? Do you want it to be a big business, or do you want it to be a small business before you start operating? The way in which the business is controlled and managed, or management. You also have to consider the fact of management. How do you want your business to be controlled? Do you want it to be controlled by you? Do you want it to be controlled by other people on your behalf? So that's another factor that you need to consider. Who bears the risk, or risk bearing? Now we look at who is going to be responsible for all the risks that are going to be incurred in the business. Do you want to bear the risks alone, or do you want the risks to be shifted to other people? So this is another factor that you need to consider. The startup cost and the future or capital. You also need to consider the startup cost. Do you want to start a business with your own money, or do you want to start a business with a borrowed money? Who is responsible for any debts made by the business? We look at liability. You also have to consider the fact of liability, that if you want to start a business, do you want to be liable for all the debts that have been incurred in the business, or would you want other people to be liable for those debts that have been incurred by the business? Tax implications for profits earned by businesses, that is taxation. You would also consider taxation factor. Do you want to start a business that is going to be taxed on profits, that is also going to be taxed on your own personal capacity, which is double taxation, or do you want to start a business that is going to be single taxation? You also need to consider the lifespan of the business, or continuity. That do you want to start a business that is going to end when you as a business owner dies or decides to retire or close down business, or do you want to start a business that is going to continue even if you are no longer there? That's another factor that you have to consider. How profits and losses will be dealt with. Sharing of profits. You also need to consider the fact of sharing profits. That do you want to start a business whereby you will share profits with other people, or would you want to start a business that all the profit would belong to you alone as an owner? So those are the factors that you need to consider before you start a business. Now, let us look at our second concept, which is different forms of ownership. We have the sole trader, we have a partnership, we have a private company, which ends with Pty Ltd. We have state-owned company, which ends with SOC. We have a public company, which ends with Ltd. We have personal liability company, which ends with INC. We have non-profit company, which ends with NPO or NPC. We also have cooperatives. So these are different forms of ownerships that we have. Now, moving on to our third concept of the lesson. Definition of a sole trader. A sole trader is a business that is owned and managed by one person. So when we talk of a sole trader, we are referring to a business that is owned by one person. It's not owned by two people, but the business belongs to one person alone. So that particular business, it's a sole trader. The business owner handles everything, including the activities of the business, its processes and decisions. Now that the business belongs to one person alone, this particular person who is a sole trader is the one who takes decisions alone. This person who is the owner of a business is the one who makes sure that he handles or she handles everything that is happening in a business. Why? Because this business belongs to one person. Now we look at the characteristics of a sole proprietor. There are no legal requirements regarding the name of the business. So obviously, when you would want to start a one-man business or a sole trader or a sole proprietor, there are no legal requirements in terms of the name. You can name your business anyhow. There are no legal requirements that you have to follow in order to name your business. Legally, the sole trader and the business are not separate entities. So the business and the owner, they are one person, because the business belongs to the owner. So whatever debts that the business incur, they belong to the owner, because this is a one-man business. A sole trader may be started without performing any legal formalities or registration. So obviously, if you would want to start a sole trader, there are no legal requirements that you have to follow. You just simply start operating anyhow, because that particular business does not need you as an entrepreneur to register it. Advantages of a sole trader or proprietorship. It is easy and quick to form a sole trader, as there is less capital needed. So obviously, a sole trader does not need a large amount of money to start. That's why it's easy to start this particular business. The owner can take quick decisions as and when required and has full control. Since the owner is the only person in the business, quick decisions can be made, because the owner does not discuss decisions with another person. This business belongs to one person, so it's very easy and quick to make decisions. The owner has full control of what is happening in the business. The owner takes all the profits made by the business and is entitled to the ownership of the assets. So obviously, the profits that are made by the sole proprietorship as a business, they belong to the owner, since it is a one-man business. All the assets that are for the business, they also belong to the owner, because this business belongs to one person. Now let's look at the disadvantages of a sole trader or proprietorship. It is not always possible to pay high salaries. As much as you can employ people to work for you in your business, it's not always possible to pay high salaries, because the sole trader does not make that much of a money. So it's difficult to pay high salaries to the employees. Unlimited liability, which means that the owner is personally liable for all the debts and losses suffered by the business. So since the business and the owner, they are one person, so the debts of the business belong to the owner. There is unlimited liability. So whatever losses that are being suffered by the business, they are also suffered by the owner. Growth of business can be restricted due to lack of capital. So this business, it's not easy to expand, because there's little capital, and it's not easy to raise capital because it belongs to one person. If a bank would reject the application of a loan of an owner, then it simply means that that business cannot have a capital to expand. Let us go for a quick ad break, and we will be back.